Okay, howdy folks. I am just recording this really quickly as I only figured this out today, but I was trying to work out if there was an easier way to do the border on the Harrisonburg quilt, and somebody in chat the other day mentioned that was it possible to do it with Seminole piecing. I'll check the spelling for that later, but it was actually, and I worked it out. So what you need to do is cut 2 5/8 inch strips, one of your color that you're using, and two of the background. So they are 2 5/8 wide. You're then going to piece those into a strip set like this, which will give you these. So you'll end up with strip sets like this of all of your pieces. And then what I did was just press everything in the same direction. So in this instance, I just went up, and that is on all of them. From those, you then cut 2 5/8 inch sections of all your little pieces, and you could just do it with 2 5/8 inch squares if that's all you have and you're unable to cut strips. You could just sew the sets of 3 together, and that, again, all the pressing in one direction. Once you have all of these sections, just mix it up, and what you need to do, no, that way would have been correct, I've got the opposing seams here, is sew these offset by 1 block. So you would put this right sides together and sew from here where that overlaps, and that should, when it's in the right spot, be your 1/4 of an inch. So you would sew that to just to here, because then on the other side that's where that one finishes. And I actually just like to back stitch at the start and the end there. Once you have those, they're here somewhere, trust me. Oh no, they fell off. Once you have a few of those sewn together, it will look like this. Now, follow in the pattern for the number that you need, and you need to add 2 extra on each end, and that is because of the way this then needs to be trimmed down. So you would make your strip for as long as that side calls for. Okay, and once you've got that, as you can see, I've got another one here. You then trim that down. Okay, so what you do to trim it down is take your ruler, and I'll put it this way, and you can do this in stages if you just got to make sure that everything is straight. Find the 1/4 of an inch on your ruler and place that at the top of these peaks or crossovers, whatever you would like to call them. And then you can trim that off. Do that on both sides. Of course, I'm going to need to make this one longer, so I'm not going the whole way along. Once again, find that 1/4 of an inch. Sometimes you might need to just fudge it a little, but you should be fine. So there is a little bit of waste with this method, but it could be a little bit quicker or easier. And then you have the 3.5 inches that you need. width for your border, so everything will remain the same, and these would all line up with your sashing and such. Now, as I said, you need to put an extra one on the end. I've already trimmed this end, so it is a bit of a waste, but it's the only way to get this square here. You could, I suppose, just sew one square onto that, but I think you would still be missing a little bit of it for your seam allowance. And all I did to actually trim that off straight was, on your ruler, you should have these 45-degree lines, and they cross over at exactly the 45-inch mark. So all I did was line those marks up inside my square here, and then trim that straight across. And I'll show you that is how that worked out here. There you go. Trim that straight across. So just remember, whatever the number is that's required for that side, you add 2 extra, 1 on each end, to allow for that trim down. Now, be aware that with all of this, you now have bias on every single one of these. So extra care will need to be taken when sewing this down to the quilt. So what I would suggest is putting this border strip on and having the quilt top, and you place the bias on the bottom closest to your feed dogs, and that way you won't be able to stretch it as you're sewing. If you put it on the top, you can stretch it, but with enough care and attention, the bias edges won't matter all that much at all. So I just thought I would make that quick little video in case you were having trouble or didn't really want to make all of those little diamonds into square blocks. And it eliminates all that seams across here, so it's not as bulky, it's nice and flat, and it is actually quite quick and simple. Okay folks, I hope that helps you out to get your Harrisonburg finished, and as Pat has already told us, maybe you would like to enter it into the virtual quilt show in whatever condition finished is to you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again next week.